Hello everyone, welcome to VLearn and welcome back to the class Introduction to the Genetics. In today's class of Introduction to the Genetics, we are basically going to study about the concept of lethal gene. So basically we are going to study about the concept of lethal gene. It's a kind of intragenic interaction. If you remember, we studied two kinds of interaction, intragenic interaction and intergenic interaction. So in this class, we are going to study about one form of intragenic interaction, and this is lethal gene concept. As its name suggests, a gene is said to be lethal. A gene is said to be lethal that kills an organism, that is toxic to the organism. So basically, a gene is said to be lethal when it kills an organism. So basically, lethal gene kills an organism. Kills an organism when it is present in kills an organism when it is present in when it is present in homozygous form. Homozygous form. Let us study this with an example. This homozygous form can be either in some organism it can be dominant form, in the other organism it can be recessive forms. So let's study it with example. The first example here we are going to study about is Q0 coat color in mice. Coat color in mice. The coat color in mice observed by a scientist named Q0. So it is coat color in mice studied by scientist Q0. So basically if we study about the coat color in mice, the coat color in mice could be yellow or it could be brown. Let us say an organism with heterozygous form is crossed with capital Y small y, that is other heterozygous form. Then the resultant ratio in the next generation of this cross should be capital Y, capital Y, capital Y, small y, and small y, small y. But in these if these organisms are crossed in heterozygous form, then this ratio comes out to be 2:1. Why? Because this particular organism with homozygous dominant form, this homozygous dominant organism, this is basically an organism which was present in homozygous dominant form. This homozygous dominant organism dies at an early stage of life. Dies at embryonic stage in this particular case. So die is in embryonic stage of their life. So this organism basically doesn't exist in nature. So the ratio which should be 1:2:1 is now 2:1. So this particular organism with homozygous dominant form don't exist in nature, that is coat color in mice. If we know this particular organism which dies at an embryonic stage, then this kind of lethal gene or this kind of lethality is known as absolute lethality. This kind of lethality is known as absolute lethality. So this kind of lethality is basically what we know as absolute lethality. So this is the concept. Let us study another example. The other example, the second example of the lethal gene is leaf color in Antirrhinum majus. Antirrhinum majus. The leaf color in Antirrhinum majus was first studied by a scientist named Bohr. So he observed the similar kind of phenomena. What he observed is the leaf color It is also antirhinum major is basically known as snapdragon. Snapdragon is the normal name, common name of antirhinum major's plant. Similarly, if he crossed heterozygous plant, he self-crossed these heterozygous plant, and what he observed was capital G, that is homozygous dominant organism was not present in nature. Other plants with heterozygous form, capital G and small g, were basically present. The ratio, which should be 1 is to 2 is to 1 or 3 is to 1, was not present. So instead, the ratio here was found to be 2 is to 1. This homozygous dominant does not exist in nature because death occurs. Because of the death, they are not present in nature. The leaf color in the antirhinum majors or snapdragon can be by capital G small g, that is heterozygous form, or small g that is homozygous form. If the genotype is capital G small g, that is genes are present in heterozygous form, then this variety is basically what we know as Aurea variety. Aurea variety, or it is also known as golden variety, or it is also known as variegated variety. Variegated variety. So this particular form is basically what we call Aurea variety, or the golden variety of the antirhinum majors. If they are present in homozygous recessive form, so this particular plant is basically what we call green variety. So the leaf color in these genotype, the plants with this genotype, would be green in color. What happens if we cross it in test cross form? Test cross. Let us say capital G small g is crossed with small g. So what happens? If we talk about the gametes in this particular form, that gamete should be capital G small g. The other form should have the gametes small g. So if we combine these different kind of gamete, the result should be capital G the result should be capital G small g, that means capital G small g, and the other form should be small g. So basically we don't get any capital G that is dominant form in either cross. So here all the plants will be present in Aurea variety and green variety, and the ratio of these would be 1 is to 1. So this is the basic concept of lethal gene. This lethal gene can occur basically in three forms. This concept of lethal gene can basically occur in three forms. If this lethality occurs in early stage of life, like embryonic stage, that kind of lethality is basically what we call absolute lethality. So one kind of lethality could be absolute lethality. The other kind of lethality is sublethality. Third kind of lethality is delayed lethality, and the fourth kind of lethality is conditional lethality. Let us study about these kinds of lethality. Absolute lethality. Absolute lethality means, the one example we have already seen, that is coat color in mice. That means death occurs at embryonic stage. The other kind of lethality is sublethality. Sublethality basically means the death occurs at at childhood stage. At childhood stage, that means before reaching maturity, before reaching sexual maturity, before reaching puberty or sexual maturity. The next kind of lethality could be delayed lethality. In this form of lethality, in this particular form of lethality, the death do not occur of course at embryonic and childhood stage, but the organism's death occurs at sexual maturity. Death occur at sexual maturity. So basically death at sexual maturity. So by the time he is sexually mature, by the time the organism is sexually mature, there occurs death. The other kind of lethality is conditional lethality. Lethal alleles kills this organism under certain environmental condition. Under certain means death occurs under certain environmental condition. What do you mean this by certain environmental condition? For example, there is a temperature sensitive organism occurring in nature. If the temperature is set to be like, for example, 30 degrees Celsius, the organism behaves normal. The organism is absolutely normal. But if this particular temperature condition, that means this particular environmental condition, is switched to the another condition, let us say if you are raising the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius or 5 degrees Celsius, let us say 35 degrees Celsius, 38 degrees Celsius, then there occurs the death of organism. Then there occurs death of the organism. Means at high temperature there occurs the death, and at the lower temperature the organism was behaving normal. So this is what we call conditional lethality. If the condition changes, if the conditions found to be persist at 30 degrees Celsius, the organism survives. But if there is a change in the condition, change in the environmental condition, then there occurs the death. So there are some organisms in the nature which shows the conditional lethality. So this is the end of the class. I hope you liked the video. If you have any doubt regarding this class, please comment in the comment section. Thanks for watching video. See you in the next video.